Hello guys! Welcome back. How are we doing? This video is going to be about making a demo. Now, I'm not very good at scripting demos or finding out what samples to use or what clips to use. So imagine my joy when a friend of mine, Justin Reigard, sent over a pre-recorded list of voice samples to use for his demo. So, we're going to be making a character voice demo today. All the recording's done. All of the character voices have been recorded and sent over, but it's just raw recordings. And so I'm going to go through with you guys today and show you the post-production phase of preparing a demo. So let's throw our headphones on and jump right in, shall we? Step one is make a copy of the original file. So Justin has sent over an audio file with the recordings of the voice clips he wants to use in his demo. First thing I'm going to do is make a copy of that. And now I've got my copy, I can throw it into Adobe Audition. Now, you might have to use adjust this process depending on what software you're using, but this is what I'm going to do. First off, I'm just going to listen through to the whole thing. Spoiler, I've already done that. So we have a nice clean recording to start with. But it does need a bit of polishing. But it's not too dynamic, everything's a similar volume throughout. So, I'm going to blitz through and get this mastered and get it all polished up and get it all processed. Just as a baseline, I might process different voice clips slightly differently later on depending on what it is exactly I'm trying to do with them. But for the time being, we want to get everything nice and consistent, nice and crisp. I will do a whole video on mastering at some point. But for this one, I am just going to fast forward. I'm going to use this as a base and then work backwards. Right, okay guys, I've got it to where I'm happy with it. I'm not going to go through this in detail with you what I've done. I've used a preset that I use and then I've sort of manipulated it to what I need for this exact audio clip. I will run through it very quickly. RX denoise, neutron-free elements, which is an equalizer, a transient shaper, and a compressor. Transient shaper is just like a really weird compressor that just attacks the transients. The compressor on this is really gentle as well. I've then got a parametric EQ separately outside of neutron just because I wanted to cut off some of the tops. I wanted a low-pass filter because it was a bit crispy at the top and I just wanted to get rid of some of that. This is a plugin. It's a sibilance reduction plugin. It's like a de-esser, but fancy. In here I've just got a boring expander set to -35, 2:1. There's also a limiter in here. It shouldn't be doing anything, but it's there just in case. That might be a bit aggressive for a voiceover expansion, but this is going to have a music bed and you'll see what we're going to do with it, so it will be fine. Multi-band compressor. This is going to be much more compressed than I would normally compress a voiceover because it's a demo reel, it's a character voice reel. There's going to be a lot of sound design. I need the voice to be punchy, I need it to be cutting through. Also with the EQ's quite sharp. There's a lot of low highs that I've left in there because it's going to be in a mix and I need the vocals to cut through the mix and be more present in amongst all the other sound design we're going to do. So that's what we've got here. I can't see past the camera. I'm going to whack that on there, have a look what the waveform's like, and then move on. If you're interested in any of these processes specifically, let me know, and I'll jump into them a bit further. But that's it. Our clip is mastered and ready to go. Not mastered, but it's partially mastered. We'll polish it up a bit more later. Next step, I'm going to blitz through this, and I'm going to edit it. We need this to be a minute. I have 2.5 minutes of audio. And I'm going to cut out all the bits I don't like. I'm going to go through and keep cutting and cutting and cutting and cutting and cutting until I get it under a minute long. And I'm going to start thinking about what I want where in my final demo when it's made. I'm not going to move it around yet. I'm just going to cut it and possibly drop markers in so I can find it in a minute when we start doing our mix. Again, this is not going to be a normal voiceover edit or a normal dialogue edit. This is a demo reel or a sizzle reel. It's going to be tight. It is going to be a lot of very close cuts, a lot of very tight edits. We've got 1 minute and we need to pack in as much as we can. We need to ram it in there. No dead air. It's okay on demo reels if it sounds a little bit too tightly cut. It's kind of just the expected thing. I'm going to run through, do that now, and then I'll check in with you. Okay, so a couple of things to note. One thing I'm thinking about as I do this is what contrast there is. So I want something nice and punchy. I already know what I want at the beginning, but I want to have a lot of contrast. So a high one, a low one, and be that pitch or tone or energy. If you have 6 clips and you have 3 high energy ones and 3 low energy ones, a really good thing to do is go high, low, high, low, high, low, so that each sample jumps about and holds your attention. If you have 3 similar clips next to each other, it doesn't really demonstrate the talent's range, and that's what we want to do. So just keeping that in mind. And the other thing as well is I want to get as many different samples in here as possible. So I'm being really brutal with how much I'm cutting out. Our first sample here is 8 seconds. We also want to keep some of the context, some of the story, so you can sort of follow it, just to keep it interesting. But that's the first clip. I'm kind of happy with that. I might cut a little bit more out of it if necessary. I might cut one of the phrases off the end to make it shorter, but we'll see how it goes. Anyway, I'm going to crack on. Okay, right. What I've done is I've blitzed through, I've cut out most of the big gaps, so I've got it like half edited. I've chopped out a lot of the big chunks that I don't want, or a couple of these samples that I just don't think will fit. So anything I'm absolutely certain of is not going to be used has been cut. This is a destructive editing process at this point. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to go and throw it into a multi-track editor, a non-destructive editor, into a project and start cutting everything up, because I've dropped markers where each clip starts and ends, start moving things around, and then I need to cut 50% because we still have 2 minutes and 10 seconds of audio and I need it to be 60 seconds at most. So let's do that. And just in case you're wondering about audio specs, it's 44.1K, 24-bit, pretty standard, typical dialogue voiceover stuff. You can do 48K if you want, but yeah, 41, 48, either way. Okay, so I've dropped it into a multi-track editor and I've just dropped in, ran through it and put a cut where each of my markers is. So I now have 1 clip for each clip that I can move around and manipulate as I want, and now I can move them around and start putting them where I want. It is definitely going to be one of those laughs later on that's going at the beginning, because it's a nice big punchy sound to get people right in there. And laughs, always, evil laughs, always go with thunderclaps. So that's a nice real attention grabber at the beginning of our reel. We will come back to that in a sec. Let me get all these into the right space, and then we'll start cutting it down. Okay, right, so after an absolutely brutal cut, I finally have it down to 1 minute and 1.33 seconds, which is alright. We'll let ourselves have a second over. So, following along with the idea of the contrast. Low. Normal.
The cheaters.
High.
Forward.
Low.
I don't.
Weird. High. Low.
Be able to put
so each clip is a jump from the one before. I've also sort of tried to position them in a way where you can sort of imagine a story unfolding, because although contextually they're all different, you can sort of piece them together to almost make a very weird story. So I've got those together now. Most of the air has been cut out, most of the breaths has been cut out. There's still a couple of little bits and pieces I've missed that I'll pick up as I go, but now we can start creating some sound design. Now, because it's a demo reel, we want some really punchy sound design to capture the attention of whoever listens to it at the beginning. But the product of this demo reel is the voice, it's Justin's performance. So that has to be center of focus all the time. Remember what I said when I was mastering the vocal, that I need it to be punchy, I need it to be crisp and cut through the mix, because it needs to be out front. So we're going to do it in a way that makes the voice more present. Whereas normally we'd have it in the mix, we're going to deliberately make the voice sit out slightly. And the other thing we're going to do is we're going to have a varying degree of sound design. So we're going to have 1 or 2 clips that have music and sound effects and ambience and a full soundscape built into them. And then we're going to have a couple of clips that have less, and we're also going to make sure we include a good handful of clips that have nothing. Because like I say, the product we're advertising here is Justin's voice, and so there needs to be samples, a good few samples of just his voice. So I'm going to start layering in the sound design. I'm going to use ambience, I'm going to use music, and I'm going to use effects. So what I mean by that is if you have a scene of the devil in the desert talking, you could have a thunder crack to introduce it, you could add some vocal effects to the voice maybe, probably not on a demo reel though, to be fair. You can then add the music. You can also add an ambient track, so maybe it's at night and there's some cicadas, although that would be more peaceful. Maybe it's in the desert, so you want some sizzly hot ambience, and then you have sound effects as well, maybe the sound of his hooves crunching on the sand as he walks towards you. So what I'm going to do, start dropping in some sounds, start moving some bits around, and see how it goes. Right, okay, so I have laid in some sound design, as you can see from my screen here. We have some with sound design, some clean, some with sound design, some clean, and varying levels of sound design on each of the relevant clips. So some of them have music, ambience, and effects, some of them just have a little bit of ambience, some of them have just some effects or maybe a little bit of music. So here we are, here it is, it's all done. So as you can see, there is several parts that have full sound design, ambience, music, and effects. There's also lots of parts that don't have any, and there's a couple of parts that have just a little bit of ambience or a little bit of effect. What you'll find is when you start doing this, you'll find that you'll have to overlap the ambience and the sound and the music with each clip, because you can't just have it stop and start with each clip because it's so fast. It's bam, 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 bam. And so you have to sort of fade the music and the backgrounds through. You still have quite sharp fades, but something that I find is you don't necessarily have to have the sounds 100% finished at the end of the clip. They can still be fading out for like half a second into the next portion, as long as there's something ramping up in that space to take over, and that way it sort of makes it all a lot smoother rather than it being a bit too bum-ba-dum-ba-dum-ba-dum. So I still want to have a little bit of tidy up. I'm going to sleep on this, come back to it tomorrow and probably give it another little polish, but this is what we've got. Hit it.
Spirits and specters from regions unknown.
My cases? Mostly cheaters. Those are easy, though. I get one of those, I can write the script right then and there.
Last week they showed up with a doctor's note that they'd forged saying a man I'd buried that day was just a very deep sleeper. You believe that? I got no business. I don't care which one of you makes the decision. I was wondering who they might send. Hand to the gods!
I'm done with you. They won't be able to put what's left of you back together.
Tremble before me, puny mortals! You are nothing but vipers. I took 6 kingdoms under my reign.
You know any good representation? My, last agent died in a, non-me related strangling accident.
Alright guys, there it is. I'm not an expert at demos at all, but Justin asked me if I could throw one together for him. I said yes, and I figured it would be something that'd be great to show you guys, because when I first started out in voiceover, making demos was the worst part. I struggled with that more than anything else, so hopefully this gives you a little bit of inspiration and maybe a few ideas. Thanks for watching guys, I hope it helped. If you have any questions, let me know. I'll see you guys in the next one.